Now we're at where we looked forward to earlier. We're at Damsteed's commentary on a conference that took place in December of 1844. That's over here on this side of the Great Disappointment, which Joshua Himes and William Miller are involved with. It says, at the Lowhampton Conference of Adventists, December 28th and 29th, 1844, Himes urged three aspects of future missionary activity. I've repeated a future in there if you want to blot it out. 1, comforting the saints who are still looking for the kingdom at hand. 2, arousing the professed Christian world once more to prepare for the Advent. 3, fully and freely proclaiming salvation to lost and perishing sinners. A few weeks later, the Advent Press was again in operation, and Himes declared, I am more and more convinced that the door of salvation is open and that we are to preach the gospel of the kingdom to all the world. They believed that probation closed on October 22nd, 1844, so they're struggling with this closed door theory. And he's commenting on that, and we're not dealing with that here. In response to reports about new conversions and pressures of some of his colleagues, Miller became gradually less dogmatic on the extreme shut-door concept. And after the Jewish Karaite year 1844 had passed, he gave it up. He gave up his idea that salvation closed on October 22nd, 1844. But that's not all he gave up. He gave it up and returned to his original view of the midnight cry. In that very same month, Ellen White has her first vision, where she sees the Advent people on a path and says that those people that reject the midnight cry, they fall off the path. That vision was for William Miller as much as anyone else, because he was doing that very thing. Now in early writings, page 257, and we're closing with this, it says, my attention was then called to William Miller. He looked perplexed and was bowed with anxiety and distress for his people. The company who had been united and loving in 1844 were losing their love, opposing one another, and falling into a cold, backslidden state. As he beheld this, grief wasted his strength. I saw leading men watching him, primarily Joshua Himes. I saw leading men watching him and fearing lest he should receive the third angel's message. Okay, so now she's going to talk about William Miller being confronted with the reception of what? What's the third angel's message in this context? The Sabbath. Okay, the Sabbath. Fearing lest he should receive the third angel's message in the commandments of God. And as he would lean toward the light from heaven, these men would lay some plan to draw his mind away. A human influence was exerted to keep him in darkness and to retain his influence among those who opposed the truth. At length, William Miller raised his voice against the light from heaven. What light from heaven is she speaking about here? The Sabbath. Okay. He failed in not receiving the message which would have fully explained his disappointment and cast a light and glory on the past which would have revived his exhausted energies, brightened his hope, and led him to glorify God. He leaned upon human wisdom instead of divine, but being broken with arduous labor in his master's cause, and by age, he was not accountable as those who kept him from the truth. They are responsible. The sin rests upon them. If William Miller could have seen the light of the third angel, many things which looked dark and mysterious to him would have been explained. But his brethren professed so deep a love and interest for him that he thought he could never tear away from them. His heart would incline toward the truth, and then he looked at his brethren. They opposed it. Could he tear away from those who had stood side by side with him in proclaiming the coming of Jesus? He thought they surely would not lead him astray. God suffered him to fall under the power of Satan, the dominion of death, and hid him in the grave from those who were constantly drawing him from the truth. Moses erred as he was about to enter the promised land. So also I saw that William Miller erred as he was soon to enter the heavenly Canaan, in suffering his influence to go against the truth. Others led him to do this. Others must account for it, but angels watch the precious dust of this servant of God and will come forth at the sound of the last trump. Now I want to pull some things together in conclusion here.